was forced into an arranged marriage.
Right. And what age was that at?
17. And then one day, she didn't turn up. I was now the slave, and I knew she was dead. Thinking I'll get my passport, and if I run out now, and I might just, escape this. With her 18-month-old daughter, baby, in the same room.
Before we get into the next podcast, I just wanted to thank you for subscribing to the channel. And if you haven't, then make sure you do, because the more subscribers we have, the better the guests will be. On the Peak Potential podcast, I am lucky enough to interview some of the most interesting, wealthy, successful people I've ever come across and help you gain valuable information from their stories. Parveen.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
Amazing.
And yourself?
Really good. Fantastic.
Amazing.
We're halfway there to Friday, aren't we now? Yes. Nearly. So it's not too bad.
No.
So obviously, you help so many people worldwide, speaking, courses, books. You do so much for other people, but how are you? Does anyone ever ask you how you are?
That's interesting. I think people get so engrossed in what I'm offering or what I'm doing next.
Yeah.
But yes, usually people are like, oh, it's another topic usually.
Yeah.
But when you say that, how am I? It sounds really bizarre for me to try and answer that, because I'm going, I'm amazing. I feel great.
Amazing.
Most days I wake up thinking, oh my God, I'm so lucky to be alive. And I just get on with my day. There's no procrastination most days, because we do need time off as well. So no, I am doing absolutely amazing. Thank you.
Amazing. So obviously I know you've got an incredible story, but I'm sure there's millions of people out there who want to hear it. So what did young Parveen look like, and where did this sort of journey begin for you?
Oh, thank you. It's amazing that you've actually used those words, young Parveen, because I have to now take myself down that little track to my childhood.
I didn't mean like you're old now. I didn't mean that, if that's what I meant.
No, it's fine. So my journey started when I was around about, I would say 5 years old or so. Mm-hmm. Many things started happening in my life, which I was questioning at a very, very young age, in fact. My mum had 6 girls. Okay, this in totality. She had the first 5, and all of us were growing up, without a father figure, because my mum and dad split up. Yeah. And when they split up, my mum was looked after by her dad, who would help her. And life was difficult. I'm not going to lie about it. Yeah. Life was really, really hard. And as we were growing up, my mum became the mother and the father figure for us all. And we had to learn life skills really quite early on. So cooking was like chopping things up. We're at the age of 8 years old, cooking curries and meals, very young age again, before our teenage years, and that's how life was. But I can remember life was very hard financially as well. Of course, as you can imagine, single parent trying to bring us up, and she's trying to do something to earn a living, which she was a tailor. She used to make some clothes and sew them for people, and she used to make
amazing.
a £5 here or a £5 there in those days. And she was doing her best to put food on the table for us. But growing up was really hard.
Where did you grow up?
In Leicestershire.
Right, okay.
Yeah, so we used to go shopping, for example, and, many a time we'd have to put the food back at the till because we didn't have enough money to buy the full shop to feed all of us. So sometimes I would say I was still hungry at night before bedtime.
Yeah,
that's the journey it was in those days. So as my mum, did her best to bring us up into the world, and we became teenagers, I was at college. I went to school, of course, but I missed some exams when I was 15 years old because I went to work in a factory.
Fair one.
To bring money back into the household.
Fair play.
That's what happened in those days again. I, at the age of 17, had my very first extreme traumatic experience. And this is a story that my mum is now okay with me talking about. Mm-hmm. It's a very taboo subject in many cultures, of course, as well. The reason why I say that is because I was forced into an arranged marriage.
Right. And what age was that at?
17.
Wow.
And I felt I was still a child at that age.
And that was still in Leicester?
In Leicester.
Right, okay.
And there's nothing I could have done to get out of it. There was nothing, because it's culture, it's tradition, it's the done thing. And my mum had, all these girls, and she needed to make sure she was responsible for us. Mm. And the best thing that she thought in her mind and through culture and tradition was, if I can get my daughters married off, it's less of a burden in some sense on her and as a responsibility, and that's how it was. So my two older sisters had arranged marriages as well, and I was number 3 in the line. Right. And when it came to me, I was abroad. My mum took me to India, even though I didn't want to go. She knows I didn't want to go. But again, you respect your elders, you respect your parents, and I was out there within 5 days. I was married to a complete stranger.
Wow. And how did that get sorted? How do you even sort that? Because were they from India as well?
Yes.
So how did that even come about as such?
So it's usually through traditional family setups.
Right, okay.
I know somebody who could marry your daughter. What about this person over here? And it's that sort of an arrangement, really.
And it still very much happens today, doesn't it?
100% it's still happening today. And I think it's who's going to break those boundaries, who's going to break those barriers and traditions.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say, I did it, actually.
Yeah.
So my story goes back to India. And of course, I'm married. And 5 days after my wedding, my father-in-law dies of appendicitis.
Right.
And my mother-in-law at the time said I was a curse on the family.
Wow.
So now he promised me, when he was alive, and he said, I will treat you like a princess. We've got everything. We've got wealth, we've got land, we've got cattle, and, you've got this gold. And, so it was like an exchange in some sense for the son to marry his son. But we will treat you like a princess. But after he died, my mother-in-law said I was a curse on the family. So now, quite quickly, the turnaround of instead of being the princess, I was now the slave. I became the person who milked the buffaloes in the morning, in the evening, yes, water buffaloes. And I was the person who was also, catching the chicken, to kill the chicken, to cook the chicken on not a gas fire, not electric hob, nothing like that, a clay oven that you'd have to, start the fire off yourself. I was then washing the floors and I was getting everything done. So instead of being looked after, I became the slave. I'm going to use that word because that's what I felt like I was.
Yeah, especially at that age.
Yes.
As well. At any age, you shouldn't be
so
dropped into that situation as such.
Exactly, Richie. So my turnaround of life of thinking that this was going to be me being looked after became the opposite. I was then looking after everybody else. I'm not going to lie about it. I was sick. I was anxious. I was probably depressed. Didn't know it. And I tried to run away one day, thinking I'll get my passport. And if I run out now, and I might just, escape this. Because this isn't the life I wanted.
No.
And cutting a very long story short, at one point I did end up at the British Embassy and with my husband at that time. And I asked the British Embassy to let me go back to the UK where I was born and bred because my family are there. I want to see my mum. I want to see my sisters. And after a grueling hours and hours of interrogation, I'm going to call it, I eventually got the stamp to come back to the UK.
Wow.
So when I got back to the UK, my journey was still quite difficult. And a long story short, I ended up having my first baby, Sharon, her name, and the first female in my family at the time. And she was doing fine. And then something else happened. There's going to be a lot of traumas in my stories, and I won't be able to share all of them with you today probably, but there is a lot of traumatic stories. During that time frame, when my child was small, my sister had her baby at the same time as me, and this sister also had an arranged marriage. And we used to work together at the same factory, and we always used to meet up at the same corner of the street every morning after we dropped our children off.
Yeah.
We'd go to work, we'd natter and everything. And then one day, she didn't turn up.
Potential.World is not just an online learning platform. It's a vibrant community that brings people together to learn about marketing, sales, growing your business, growing you personally, and everything in between. In the description, you'll find the link to our platform. Please head over, sign up, and take advantage of all the ebooks, masterclasses, exclusive podcasts, tools and resources that you can use instantly, and so much more. Not only that, we have community groups that you'll be added into straight away on sign up, where you can speak to other people who are on that same journey as you. Without further ado, enjoy the podcast.
Right. She never turned up at the corner where we would always meet. My heart sank and I had fear in me.
You knew something was wrong?
I just knew something was wrong. I just knew it. And I knew she was dead that morning.
Wow. How did she die, if you don't mind me asking?
So she was found dead they said it was suicide. And again, this is a traumatic story, so warning signs may need to go out, but she was found hanging in her bedroom with her 18-month-old daughter, baby, in the same room, which we as a family cannot still comprehend. That's what happened, that she committed suicide. Because I swear to this day, if my sister had committed suicide or was thinking about suicide, she would have said something. But we had a lot of conversations every morning. We used to walk to work and back. She was very scared. She was scared of her husband. One thing I did know. He used to beat her up. She had bruises on her body. One thing I did know this.
Sick, innit?
It is. But I feel I didn't do enough for her, actually. Maybe I should have made it a bit more of a point to say, do we need to do something about this? But being a tender age of 18, 19 at that time.
You're still very young. But also you can never, I've had a lot of my friends down, and you always say initially, you think, well, what if I did this? And what if I did that? And you can't think like that. You can't think like that. It's as mad as it is, what's meant to be is sort of meant to be. And there's all the reason behind everything. And, without that happening now, would you have been doing what you're doing today? Do you know what I mean? Who knows? Yes. So I always say, like, something, even massive traumatic things that happen, I always think
there's a reason.
There's a reason for it. Do you know what I mean?
I do agree with you. I really agree with you. And I think that pretty much was the most traumatic time of my life at that young age, because grieving didn't stop, just after a year or 2 years. I cried for my sister every single day for 8 years.
Yeah.
Every single day. So I just went through that period of thinking, right, I need to change something. And actually, after seeing that she was no longer with us, I had to make some bold moves. And I did break the barriers and boundaries of the culture, because then I eloped. I ran away because I was scared that could this happen to me.
Yeah.
And I was lucky to escape that marriage, actually. So I was told by the ex afterwards.
Yeah.
He actually did say to me, you're lucky you escaped when you did.
Wow.
Yeah. So this sort of stuff does happen. So imagine just living in fear for years, and which is what I did do. After I eloped, I hid, and we lived in fear. Me and my husband now, we lived in fear for a long time. And we had baseball bats at the side of our beds.
Yeah.
I had things to prepare us. If someone came to kill us, we would be prepared to do something to fight for our lives.
Because you never know what people are capable of.
No.
That's crazy. That's crazy. So when you came back then, and after all that started, when did you start getting into the wellness and mindset stuff? And I suppose, did that sort of start with you working on yourself to get yourself right, and then saw the benefits of it, and then wanted to help other people do that? How did that? And that's just my take on it. Is that what happened?
That's okay. Yeah. So one trauma takes me into the next trauma, unfortunately, but it's okay to talk about it too.
Of course, it's good. It's healthy to talk about.
It's healthy, and I've had my healing journey, and at the age of 27, this was my third pregnancy now with my husband. The third pregnancy was really quite traumatic. I was struggling to walk during pregnancy. And when it came to childbirth, my pelvis split through giving birth.
Wow.
And that was the same impact as if you're going down the motorway 100 mile an hour and having a head-on crash. That's what I was told by my physios.
Blimey.
So my whole body, now I was already broken emotionally and mentally with the death of my sister. Now the toll was taken out onto my body. And I became disabled for 4.5 years with this a pelvis condition. So I had this newborn baby, and I never held her because I was so sick. Wow. So sick. I was on about 100 tablets for different things per week. Some of them were vitamins, minerals, and so forth to help me to get back together again. But a lot of them were also beta blockers for the heart, because I didn't think I was ever going to recover from that.
Yeah.
And I lay on a bed downstairs for a very long period of time. I had carers, home help. My husband lost his job. And it was an absolute nightmare, I'm going to tell you. Absolute nightmare. So my wellness journey hasn't even started at this stage.
Right.
And I would have been, I think I was 27 years old then. And having 3 young children, disabled. My husband's lost his job, and we're living off £30 a week, including nappies, food, and everything. And until I decided I was going to do something disruptive, Nobody came to our help at the beginning. I was going to go to the newspapers and say, guess what? You've got a family of 5 people here living off £30 a week. My husband's lost his job. Where is our support? And as soon as I started ranting and raving about this is what the measures I was going to take, everybody came running then. You know, I wrote a letter to the MP, blah, 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 and everybody came running. And that's when we started to get the real help. And the help was to help my husband, myself, emotionally, mentally, to give us home help so that my little baby, who I never held, could go to daycare to give my husband a break while I was still lying on a bed. And I had a commode in the same room as me. I had crutches, and the odd time I did go out, I was in a wheelchair just to go out of the house. So I was wheelchair bound for 4.5 years, I would say, with walking sticks and so forth. So if you can just imagine that, emotionally, mentally, now physically broken on every single level. I then recovered because my surgeon wanted to put metal plates into my body. And I refused surgery. And I refused surgery because they gave me 50-50 chance of ever walking again. That was with surgery or without surgery.
Blimey.
Yeah. So being the 27-year-old that I was, brave enough to say, actually, I'm not going to go with surgery because what's the point if you put metal plates into my body and I never walk still? What are the complications? And I never went for it. So I had to now be rebuilt physically. My pelvis, of course, is the biggest bone in the body. And I was an outpatient at a rehabilitation centre going in 4 times a week to build my pelvis area up and to get me to walk again. Okay. And I was in the hydrotherapy pool where they had slings and different contraptions to get me into the pool because I couldn't walk, you know?
Yeah.
So if you can just imagine the pain and the excruciating time that I went through on that level for the 4.5 years. And then I went to work after that. I started working in my local school just as a volunteer reader. And the head teacher said to me, Parveen, my goodness me, you need to be a teacher. I thought, that was my dream when I was a child, you know, when you used to play mums and dads and all this with the teddy bears.
Yeah.
And I used to lay mine out and I used to read books to the teddy bears and so forth. I said, that's my dream. I always wanted to be a teacher, in fact. So she put me through some programs and I learned, went to college and I was able to walk at this stage, even though I was still struggling on some levels. And then I was a teacher and I say not a teacher, a teaching assistant, but I went into mentoring.
Yeah.
I was a mentor in schools.
Amazing.
Then from that, unfortunately, again, I had my second disability. This time it was breathing difficulties and I couldn't get up to go to school to do my job. So the same baby I never held, she's now 8 years old, standing in front of me saying, Mum, get out of bed. We're getting late for school. We need to go to school. And I literally couldn't breathe. I couldn't breathe. And I looked at her and I felt I was dying in front of her. And I looked at her face and I thought, I'm never going to see my 8-year-old daughter again. Never going to see her eyes again. And everything in front of me was going black, 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 black.
I mean, that's scary stuff, isn't it?
Very scary. And I just couldn't breathe. And I whispered to her, get the neighbour. She got the neighbour. The neighbour rang the doctor. The neighbour rang the doctor. The doctor says, you need an ambulance. Call 999. And an ambulance came. Bit of a blur. Ended up in hospital, in and out. And my breathing difficulties were hard to diagnose, but it was very debilitating. And I went private hospital in the end. And the diagnosis came through. It seemed like there was a blockage on the lung. And the doctor put me on some very strong inhalers and something to dissipate this blockage, I would say. And I didn't recover straight away. I didn't recover. I thought I was going to recover. I was left disabled for another 2 years.
Wow. And did they say what caused that?
So suspicion was pulmonary embolism, which is what my doctor GP thought the same, and that's the only way I could explain it. But then something did fizzle out, of course, this blockage, but I had to then retrain to breathe again.
Yeah.
Okay. And then my doctor did say looks like it was numerous viral infections at the same time and possible pneumonia. But they also put it down to lots of anxiety as well. And that I realised...
And stress on the body from that.
So many different things that have happened in my life, you know, and that's what I realise now, how anxiety and stress can impact you.
Absolutely.
Unbelievably. And so that's when, after this breathing difficulties, you know, when I recovered 2 years later, I recovered. And actually, even then, Richie, you're not going to believe this, my lung specialist said, you're going to be disabled for about 20 or 40 years of your life, because I couldn't walk. I couldn't talk barely. I was struggling to eat and breathe at the same time.
Yeah.
And it was just a long, painful journey. And I refused to believe this doctor that I'm not going to be disabled. I can't be. I've done it once. I don't want to be in that space again.
Yeah.
And
Incredible.
I recovered after 2 years to the month I was actually ill.
No way.
But I did have
Ain't
some
it
divine
mad,
experiences.
Yeah, isn't it crazy though how they just... and obviously not all doctors like this, but you hear it so many times that people are just very quick to just write people off.
Yeah.
When...
You want to find different ways of recovery as well.
Exactly.
And there are ways, and this is what I teach and what I do now. Like you said, the wellness journey started around about that time, the very first few months. And I had a lot of epiphany moments. And I can remember thinking, I'm going to die one of these nights. I was scared to close my eyes, whether it's in the daytime or at nighttime. If I close my eyes, I may never open them again. And I went through that for that whole 2-year period, in fact. I'm going to say this. And one night, I was so scared. I thought, if I close my eyes, I'm going to die. And I can remember begging for my life, thinking, please, whoever you are out there, if I can say God, angels, universe, whoever you are, please do not let me die. I was crying, begging for my life. And something happened, Richie. And I know a lot of people will not believe me.
Yeah. Yeah.
I had this divine experience where these 3 beings of light, I will call them, this epiphany moment happened. And I felt something happening to me and something was changing. Something was happening in my body. It felt like an operation, but yet there was no physical person. So I can explain this. I went through this for a whole hour. I could see my digital clock in front of me and I watched it. And for a whole hour this happened. I was in so much pain. Then I fell asleep. And I said to my husband in the morning, did you see what happened last night? Did you see that? See what? You crazy? I think, no, this is what happened. And I told him and he didn't believe me, which I know people would find this very, very difficult to comprehend.
Yeah.
So lots of things happened. And then before you knew it, people wanted to learn more from me. So my whole life changed within that 2-year period. So I couldn't go back to my job. And I became a mentor and a coach and a teacher to help people to overcome anxiety, stress, pain in the body. And for the last 19 years or so, I'm going to say I've been doing this.
Amazing. That's unreal. Do you not think, it's not been obviously as bad as your journey, but I'm like, I almost get off now on the fact that I've been beat to the ground so many times, like over and over and over and over again. But do you know what? The person that's come out the other end of that is, I walk around now and I'm like, I'm a ninja. I will overcome anything. Like, you cannot affect my day. Like, no matter how negative or bad, or I won't physically let it, because I think it's not as bad as that. Do you know what I mean? Like, it and it's that whole thing of either it's make or breaking it. You either think about it all the time, you still think about it all the time, but you either let it kill you as a person, or you use that as your superpower sort of thing.
Yes.
And that's obviously exactly what you've done.
But you're also a ninja. You're a proper warrior.
You are.
I heard your stories earlier today. I was like, wow. You definitely have come. You're a warrior. You've come out the other side. And that's what's important. I think that, we can all have traumas and extreme traumas and the adversities of life. But when we see what we've been through and we have the energy and the power to recover from these things, we can literally do anything.
And help other people do exactly the same with that energy, like,
yes,
I think.
Exactly. And this is, like, you are walking proof of this, I'm walking proof of this. And I didn't tell you this actually, last November, I climbed 4 mountains in one day.
Is that the peak, what's it called?
It wasn't the peaks, it was in Wales somewhere. And my husband said, well, now you've made this mountain, can you see that one? We'll go to the next one. Then he kept taking me to all these. I'm like, I can't walk anymore. I'm thinking, oh my God. And I did it really quite easily. I was really, really shocked and surprised that I could climb all of these mountains. One, I'm scared of heights.
Yeah. I'm exactly the same.
So we're not warriors after all.
We're just low ground warriors.
Yes. just flat ground, I can do that. Yeah, so I climbed 4 mountains in one day, and then a day before that, or missed a day before that, I climbed another mountain. So 5 mountains in a period of 2 days.
Yeah.
So this shows the resilience, the strength, the power that we have within us.
Yeah.
And when we get to that recovery stage, and like we are talking about, what else can we do with this power, this superpower? We literally can do anything. And my whole life has transformed over the last 19 years.
Yeah.
And like you said, when these traumas happen, the death of my sister, which was the most horrific time, well, I've had a lot of horrific times, one of the most traumatic things that happened in my life, I never thought I could recover from that. I was having heart palpitations. I was having panic attacks for 8 years, day in and day out. Nothing could
And
make
you
it
do it
better.
at the time, don't you? But then something just clicks almost.
Yes. So this is it. It's that power that we can change what we are feeling. But a lot of people won't know how to change these things. And this is where the wellness sessions and the coaching comes in, and transformative life coaching. This is now, I'm helping people, for a long, long time, internationally teaching, globally speaking, and encouraging people to take this path, which doesn't have to be difficult. And when people can find the tools to do it, that's where the changes are going to be made.
Yeah. It's just the reset.
Yes.
Just, if I always think if you're going through a really tough time, it's just a reset every day. Every morning, work on yourself for a couple of hours first, and then go about your day. And you'll have a better chance at that day. Do you know what I mean?
You talked about discipline to me earlier in the green room.
In the green room.
And you were talking about discipline. And I think because of your army background, discipline is also needed in everyday life. Like you are saying the reset words, you're resetting yourself every morning with the discipline that you've been taught, in your career.
Yeah.
And that is going to be with you for the rest of your life. And this is where you're going to succeed. Because if we
100%.
don't have discipline, we procrastinate.
Yeah.
So because of your discipline, you're resetting yourself every day. And when you have the low moments, or this is for anybody who has down moments, we go to that reset space.
Yeah. Even just putting on some music. Like, people don't understand, like, even if you're having a rubbish day, even just putting on some music.
Yeah.
Like, put on your favourite tune or something like that, and it'll just get so much better.
Yes.
Because it's all energies and vibrations and stuff like that, isn't it?
Exactly.
And it's like, yeah, definitely. You just got to set yourself up. So what happened after that then? So obviously you got into the mindset and stuff like, and the well-being for yourself. Like, where's the coaching sort of took you in the mentorship, and obviously trying to teach people the same thing of what you did? Like, where's that sort of taking you? Obviously all over the world, but obviously tell us what are some of the things and some of the people that you've coached and stuff like that, and how they've benefited from that.
So I taught firstly, of course, in the UK and then Europe, and a lot of people wanted to have tools to have better health. How can I work on myself? So I had different programs and different courses that I would teach people. And those courses then took me on to different things. And of course, I wrote my first 2 books. First book I wrote when I was sick, when I was unwell, which was amazing, which sort of talks about how I was recovering. The second book came out a little bit more about the continuation of that story. So we're looking at, there are tools, little things in these books, but my third book, I'll go into the book first.
Yeah.
The book is giving you 7 steps to mind, the body and the soul, and looking at how we can be more successful in our lives and getting over challenges of life.
I just want to say a huge thank you to one of our main sponsors, Harrison Flynn Training. Harrison Flynn Training are an absolutely brilliant training company who provide training in security, stewards, first aid, and so much more. If you need training for your business, whether that's in health and safety, security, stewarding, absolutely anything, please contact Andy and the guys. I'll post a link below to contact them. Get in touch with them today. At a really, really affordable rate, you can get all your staff trained up on what you need them to train up on. They're a massive part in the platform. Andy's going to be doing some bits as a trainer on there as well. And I just want to say a huge thank you to Harrison Flynn Training. Because of people like that, we've been able to launch the platform. Without people like Andy and Harrison Flynn Training, this would not have been possible.
So the wellness sessions and the coaching that I've been doing for decades now, I would say, on unique levels for each individual person. So, of course, when a person says, Parveen, can I have coaching with you because I know how much you've transformed your life? Can you help me too? Yes, of course. So they're usually on a one-to-one. I can do group coaching as well, group teaching. So there's different sort of programs for different things. I am at the moment coaching psychologists. So they are my clients.
Crazy, isn't it?
Isn't it just?
It's actually quite scary.
I've got a psychologist who are my clients. They are, of course, doctors and the different degrees and so forth. And so it works. So what I'm trying to showcase here is that it doesn't matter if you're a politician who I've helped, if you're in TV, if you're celebrities, I've helped celebrities. This technique that I have, it's a formula. It is a formula. When we use the formula, it's got to work. It cannot not work. I help beauticians with skin problems, believe it or not, as well. I've helped school teachers, head teachers, musicians, all sorts of people, even scientists, doctors come to me too. So this is literally for anybody and everybody, the one-to-one sessions. So they are the coaching sessions on a one-to-one. I can also do group coaching. There's not a problem with that. I do meditation classes just to calm people's bodies down so they can be in the right space, which is really useful for us to start the day off like that. In fact, I know that you do.
Yeah.
Perfect way. But within the formula that we use to alter the person's bodily system, it's a 12-step formula. And this formula is a self-help tool. Now, that is a 2-day program. It's a training program, but it depends what people want. The coaching one-to-one definitely will transform your life. But if people say, can you train me in that 2-day program where I can work on myself every day? Of course. And I give you the 2-day program. I take you through it, train you in it, and then off you go. And you can self-treat yourself, you see. That's how that works. And then there's different programs for anxiety stress management, which is like a 3-month program. We cannot alter our brain or mind in a 24-hour space. We just cannot do that. No. It's not possible.
You're creating it. They say it takes 30 days to create a new habit.
Exactly. So my programs are over a 3-month program. A 3-month, basically that's the anxiety stress management.
Yeah.
Can you imagine? I've taken people from alcohol to cutting down alcohol in my anxiety stress management program, drug users to being not drug users in my 3-month program, and people who lived through 40 and 20 years of their trauma, anxiety on my 3-month program to having less and actually living a better life.
Amazing.
See? And this is what can happen. So these are life-transforming programs that we have in soul-to-soul well-being, because a lot of people, doctors are great at what they do. They will give you medication when you need it for life-saving stuff. They can, signpost you to this, that, and the other. But what is missing in the medical world is looking at the body holistically. So my approach for the last 20 years, because I know what happened to me emotionally, mentally, and physically, and on a soul level, how hurt I was and broken I was, how could I actually fix myself? And I did this, and I helped myself first before I could help other people.
Yeah.
And this is the way we look at it, is in a holistic format, that we've got to look at everything. If you have a broken arm, usually they would just look at the broken arm. And that's it. Well, we don't do that. When a person comes to me with, Parveen, can you help me with my skin problem? And this is not me giving them lotions and potions. This is me working with them on a deep level.
Lotions and potions, I like that.
This is like working on a completely different level. And we're actually helping them to go deep down, look at the root cause, let's fix it, let's work through this. And that's how I work.
Yeah, amazing. So that's like why I wanted to set up this whole platform, is to obviously help people and use it from every aspect of, like you say, starting with mindset and self-help and, self-development and stuff like that, because there's nothing, the sort of conventional path now is a weird, and I always call it a weird and lonely path, is in the sense of you're just going around and people are telling you, this is what you should do, this is what you should do, and you're just going through life like that. Mm-hmm. But with something like this, and obviously with help from yourself and so many other people that are wanting to get behind it, it's just, I call it as like people having a sat-nav. So this is going to be everyone's sat-nav. Do you know what I mean? So it's where you want to be, and you're going to put your destination in this platform, and that's where you're going to go at the fastest, at the fastest way possible. But there doesn't seem to be many things, except for people like yourself, myself in a little bit of it, but there's nothing for people. Like if you're walking through town now and you think, right, I'm depressed, I've got trouble, I've got this, that, and the other, where do you go? I literally couldn't tell you. There's not a go-to place where you can go, whether, you need to learn this, you need to learn that, you need to help yourself, you're depressed, you all this. Yes, there's a million phone numbers out there that you can ring, but let's face it, what is that actually doing? It's not, we live in a very weird world now, but we both just want to help people get through it.
Exactly.
And be the best person they physically can, which is why you do what you're doing, why I'm setting this up. And I think there's so many things that we can do long term. And I know you mentioned before about the ex-forces thing as well. And it'd be great to do something together, 100%.
Yes. I'm a believer of people. I'm not into technology. I'm really rubbish. We talked about that.
But it's the energy. You're bringing two people together who are really passionate about doing something, and it's just like
explosive.
In
a good way.
In a good way, yeah. Yeah. No.
Army.
No, don't go to Afghanistan. It's a rubbish holiday. Nice weather though.
No, so this is it. So I'm an impactor. I'm a transformer. A gentleman told me 20 odd years ago when I went to see him, and he's no longer here in this country, but he said, Parveen, you know what? Your energy is like a transformer. You are a transformer. And I get that now, why he used to say that to me constantly, because it is about making the impact. It's about helping people. It's about making the change. And it's about spreading what we know in the best way we possibly can. And I believe that change is inevitable.
Yeah.
We have to make change. We have to take the power in our own hands first and get that going. But I just wanted to share one little story with you, because there was a gentleman who's local to our area, and he was ex-army too, actually. He was a school teacher, and sadly he passed away. He was reaching out to me for help because he was depressed, and I did as much as I possibly could. I was checking in on him. I was saying, come on board, let me help you. But then there was a little bit of this barrier of fear. If I go and get help from you, what will I become?
Yeah.
You see? And this can happen with people who have got mental health problems, emotionally, mentally, and when people are depressed.
Yeah.
What change will I get? And sometimes that can stop people from moving forwards. But please, anybody who's watching this, I'm going to share with you, it's really important to step past that, because your life will be amazing when you get through that space.
Yeah.
And you will say, why did I not do this before?
And I can relate to that massively, in the sense of, he probably sat there and he was in the army for a while, and he didn't want to ask you and jump the gun and say, right, yeah, let's do it. Because the army is a very weird place, in the sense of, no matter how much you're struggling, even you've got that camaraderie, whatever it's called. You know what I mean?
Yes. That's right.
You don't ask for help there. If I went to my sergeant major and said, I need help, I'd have got a slap. Do you know what I mean? So that's like drilled into you, the whole crack on, and,
Be the brave soldier.
It's, soldier first. Like you used to say, soldier first. So like, you do your job, and then you worry about whatever anything else is going on. So you get that drilled into you, and I was sort of similar. And it's only till recent where you actually realise, oh my God, what a weird world I was living in with that. It's not like that at all, but that's drilled into you to death, in the sense of, you don't ask anyone for anything. You don't show any sign of weakness. You don't ask people for help. You do what you need to do first, and then you worry about what's going on in your own head. And it's such an unhealthy way of living. Like, and for years I was like that, and it just.
We need to break this stigma, really. And this is what I feel our chat's about as well.
Yeah.
Especially when we were talking in the green room about the impact on veterans when they leave the army, wherever they've got to go. And army is, of course, very traumatic, but you see what you will live will be with you for the rest of your life, unless there's a way of changing this, which I know I've worked with some people with this, but I do feel as if breaking that stigma that you have to be brave and you don't ask for help. We've got to break these boundaries and barriers, because so many people around the world are struggling right now with anxiety, stress, for different reasons. But listen, let's be open.
Yeah.
Reach out for help, because you never know whose life you're going to save. If there's somebody who's almost wanting to end their life because they can't see a way out, we might be able to just help that one person.
Yeah.
And their life could completely be opposite to that
100%.
in a great way.
And everyone can be fixed. So if you're
broke there's no reason, like you've proved it. Do you know what I mean? Look at everything that I've, me, myself, and there's so many people that have had, worse experiences than us again, and have still gone and, been absolute ninjas through life and been so successful and done all these amazing things. So it's, anyone can do it. It's just meeting the right person or mentor or anything like that who can put your sat nav on.
Yes.
And I always do the sat nav thing.
I love it. I
Because
love
it is.
it.
You're just always doing like that.
Yes.
If me and you went, right, we need to drive to Cardiff now, we'd both be doing that.
Wouldn't know how to get there.
We wouldn't have a clue. We'd just be going down wrong turns all the time. But if you've got the sat nav on, you'll drive straight to your destination.
Yes.
And that's where the mentorship thing comes in, is you being guided on the right path, like 100%.
I've written about this in my Transformative Path, the book itself, because that does navigate your life and it's empowering people. But in that, I always say the same thing. Mentorship or having a coach is the quickest and the easiest way to get you to your destination, or halfway there at least. Whereas you could be trying something to work on yourself for decades and decades and decades and still not get there. So you might as well take the plunge, invest in yourself.
But also you're cutting the time.
Yes.
What might take you 10 years could take you a year with somebody who knows what they're talking about.
Exactly. So it is what it is. So we just want people to understand that the journey is not always the easiest journey. The path isn't always easy, but when you get the support and the right person to support you on your path, you can get there.
Definitely. So what does the future look like for Parveen Smith then?
Oh my goodness, Richy.
You've done all these amazing things. What are you wanting to do? Where does it not stop, because we love the journey, not the destination,
Journey's
but
great.
where, what is coming up and what would you like to do, what you haven't already done?
Yeah. So in the next few months, I will be going out to Saudi Arabia to speak to women in Saudi Arabia and present some workshops and be a speaker out there. Also, we've got lots of different things coming up for Bangkok. We've got India, Dubai this year, Paris in next March already to present my research paper on the work that I do, which has been looked at by University of California and different doctors and researchers, which is going to be amazing. So I will have to present that exact document to the forum. And I'm looking at doing more of these events next year. And I'm looking for more spaces where I can speak globally. And the next book, I'm hoping, will be out also next year. That's my next year's target.
Amazing.
And there's lots more work that I would love to do to transform people's lives, for sure.
So, obviously, you mentioned before about you doing some bits to help ex-forces and stuff like that, and with speeches and stuff like that. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
So the people that I usually help are people who've come to me on a one-to-one.
Yeah.
So I had a RAF pilot. He came to me and he was really, really stressed. He didn't realise how stressed he was actually until we started the sessions. We dug deep and he was having nightmares of his time. I think he was in Afghanistan as well. And he would quite often kick his wife out of bed. He was having nightmares every night. And when he came to see me, we minimised those nightmares. And we could see a transformation in him. And his wife could see the difference in him. Even though he might not have completely believed in how I would work with him, but the more I did work with him, he actually could feel the difference. And you could see the difference anyway.
Yeah.
And he slept better at night. And it was all in the sessions that all the impact was made of releasing the memories of the past, calming those down, the nightmares, the day thoughts even. He was talking about how he had guns pulled on him and all sorts of things. I'm like, wow. So no wonder he could never let go of it, but he didn't know how to let go of it until his wife got him to me. And then that's how we started helping him. But wouldn't it be great that we're just talking on this sort of work on the deep level, it's a one-to-one.
Yeah.
But just imagine the impact we could make working with groups of people, not even just, and showcasing how we can support them.
100%.
So there is so much we can do. I know you've got ideas in your head, and I know you're going to do some stuff in the future. I can see it.
Yeah.
And it's just collaborating, I think, with people who are thinking, how can we help communities?
Definitely.
And I think really at the moment, I think because of your background and my understanding of resilience and going through traumatic situations, it's about getting help to the veterans, really.
Yeah.
When people, come out of war, where do they go? Do they go back home? Do they have a wife to go back to? Does their marriage and relationship last? Are parents thinking that person's too traumatized, we can't cope with them, and do they kick the person out?
All of the above.
All. And imagine when they've got nowhere to go, where is the support? And I feel with what we've talked about already, there is this need that we mustn't just let the soldiers who have been out to war and seen traumatic situations and gone through so much trauma and having to hold back, like he said, because it's not the army thing isn't to do grieving and to talk about your emotions and to keep it all in. Where does that actually end up? It's still in the person's mind, body and soul. It's still there, locked away in the cells of who they are.
Yeah.
Not until the expertise support is given, that trauma will never go away. And I'm living proof of how we can work through this.
Yeah.
And this is why I feel setting something up for veterans would be absolutely amazing. There's so many people that need the support out there who don't really want to be on the streets, who do not want to go through this trauma of nightmares going through their mind day in and day out.
Yeah.
What can we do to help them?
Definitely. Well, it's starting with this platform.
Hey.
And obviously the bits that you're doing with the speeches, I'm sure I am going to move into events and stuff like that as well through the platform and stuff like that. So definitely we could there's so many things that we can do and actually make a big massive difference in what's going on, because even I know when I came back and I was coming back to Civvy Street and stuff, I was going to the doctor. I used to get sleep paralysis quite a lot. I don't know if you've heard of that.
Yes.
So like I was getting that really bad, and I was literally, I used to get it I used to go really weird for about 3 months, 2 months a year or something like that, and I couldn't explain what it was, and it'd all start with the sleep paralysis, and then I'd be petrified of going to sleep, absolutely petrified, and I used to go to the doctors sort of every year at like a 2-month point and go, I can't sleep, I'm petrified of going to sleep, I just want someone to knock me out and stay asleep. Wow. And straight away they'd give, there's you go. I said, what are these? They're antidepressants. I said, I'm not depressed. He said, well, you sort of are because you're doing this and your brain's doing this. He said, have you ever had any, big trauma or anything like that? I said, yeah, I went to Afghanistan and stuff like that. And he just went, yep, there you go. That's what it is. I said, well, but I don't think of that. He said, it doesn't matter. He said, the back of your head, even though you're suppressing that, but you're spending all day and all your energy suppressing them memories. As soon as you fall asleep and everything goes really calm, that's when it's coming out to get you, like.
Yes.
And I was like, but I don't want antidepressants.
Yes.
I used to beat myself to death, like every year. And then it was only because my mate came round and he was like, you're being an idiot. Like, yes, you've had bad things happen, but this isn't you. Like, you can't be letting this affect you. He said, so he goes into the, on the side, gets the antidepressants, chucks them in the bin. He says, right, get your shorts on, get a t-shirt on, get some clothes on, and we're going for a run. And literally ran me round the Nantwich until I was sick.
Oh, wow.
But do you know what? After that one time, did that every single morning for a week. And I'm not saying this would work for everyone else, because I'm not a medical advisor or anything like that, but within a week of doing that, I went from feeling like hell to feeling amazing just by doing a run in the morning. So there's so many other things that, and it's the same with, what you do. People would go to a doctor and they'd give them all these tablets, but they can go to you, and it's not obviously in every situation, but a lot of people could go to you, and I know that would work a lot better than going to the doctor and taking all them tablets and work and actually get rid of the problem rather than prolong the problem.
Exactly, Richy. So when I eventually got my medical records just to see what was going on with me, I needed to find out some answers. What did the doctors put on my medical records? Believe it or not, they put a lot of the words in my medical records were anxiety. And I was on anxiety tablets for such a long time until I decided I can't live off tablets. They can't be good for me. I need to change something.
You're also just creating more problems with tablets.
Exactly. So, and I always think they're short term, if they're needed for whatever reason, fine. But you can't expect a person to live off them for, years and years and years. So when I read my medical records, how many times was anxiety written down? I was like, wow, I was gobsmacked. I could not believe it. And then that's why I do what I do. Anxiety stress management programs are there and they do work. And I do believe exactly what you're saying. If you look at all the veterans, and same with you, the trauma is totally locked in your body. Totally. There's nowhere for it to escape.
Nope.
And when you're having the tablets, it's just doing this until we dig deep and get to root cause of what's what. And like you're saying, going jogging, running, whatever, it all helps.
Yeah.
There's lots of ways that we can help.
I always said it as a balloon, and you're just blowing it up a little bit every day. Like, that's what I felt tablets did to me.
Yeah.
I've only ever taken them once in my life, and then it was horrible.
Yeah.
But I always thought it felt like a balloon, and you were blowing it. It was like a balloon in your head, and every single day it was just going and just putting a little bit of air in it.
Yeah.
But then eventually that balloon popped, and I just went and exploded, and that's when I just went off on a complete mental rampage, if you like.
Wow.
So yeah, I and as much as I'm not a doctor, and I'll and I still do it now. I see people on antidepressants and stuff, and people I know, and I'm like, stop taking them. Just try. And I'm not a medical advisor in it, but I'll just say, just try. People have been on for years, and like, just try for a month. Just what's the worst that can happen? You go on them again after a month, but if you do all these things, you can stop taking them tablets. Do you know what I mean? But we're so drilled into, if you feel bad,
tablets are the only way.
Tablets are the only way.
No.
Tablets are the only way.
Exactly. But if you look at different parts of the world, America or different parts of the world, that hasn't got an NHS system, right? You would have to pay for every single tablet. Most countries don't use tablets, believe it or not. They would use other alternative or complementary ways to bring well-being. Tablet would be the last thing. But because we have got the NHS and we are privileged and we are very lucky to have the NHS, I think it's an easier way to just say, there's your tablets. Or even the patient will go and say, can you give me some antibiotics? I need them right now. And the doctor will say, well, what's wrong with you? Actually, you don't need antibiotics, So we've got used to, our mentality is we've got used to having tablets in our life. It's just like, let's put the remote control, turn that on, watch the TV. It's the same thing. So we're just ingesting all this medication, but there's going to be a lot of further problems. I've seen this even with the older generations. When you work with people, you think, oh, I was put on them for too long. These tablets, I should have only taken them short term, but I've been on them for months, years.
Yeah.
So we've got to look at a better way of looking after ourselves. And it's a very big thing for me. And I'm a big advocate, of course, as you can see, for health and well-being, that we've got to look after ourselves emotionally, mentally, and physically.
Yeah.
And once we get that going, guess what? The world is literally your oyster. You can have anything. And I'm living proof of, as you've seen, the awards and things that get presented and all the things that have been happening this year alone. It's been phenomenal. It's because I decided I don't want to live with anxiety anymore. I needed to change my life.
Yeah.
I've transformed it, and the path forward is much more brighter.
Yeah, absolutely. Future looks bright.
Future looks bright.
Let's do it.
Let's do this.
Parveen, well, thank you so much for coming. I really appreciate that, and it's set myself up for the day now.
Fantastic.
But obviously, like we said, we're going to put various different bits and do various bits together on the platform and stuff like that. But obviously, get more people into you as well, because there's so many people that could benefit from what you do and might just not know where to go to get it. And then let's see what we can do for the future.
Yes.
Amazing.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Thank you for having me, Richy.
Thank you.
Thank you.